Again, thanks, Church Planting Canada, for the invitation. Um, the title for today is What Should Church Leaders Know About Evangelism? Implications for Church Planters. Let me take you behind the scenes just a little bit here. In early 2024, Alpha Canada and the Flourishing Congregations Institute and several other partner organizations shared emails as well as social media invitations to a national survey with thousands of church leaders across Canada. And so between February and April, 823 church leaders completed the national survey. Now, as you know, since no complete list exists of all congregations in Canada, unless you have a list of it, hopefully you can share that. But I know of no list that exists of all congregations in Canada. So it's difficult to conduct a representative sample of all churches. And so as a result, it's always important to pay attention, I think, to whose voices are present or absent in the data, which contributes to what the data reveals or not. Now, also, I want to note these things up front to caution how we interpret findings. And still, I think with that caution, I think there are some sensible observations and plausible interpretations to arise from this study in the context of the wider literature on evangelism and evangelism in Canada in particular. Now, in the survey, we defined evangelism and evangelization in the Canadian context as sharing the good news of Jesus with lapsed or non-Christians in such a way that people want to know and follow him as Savior and Lord. Now, before I get into some of the findings, let's just look at some of the demographic information first. As you can see from this slide, age is skewed to the higher end between the 50 to 59-year-old, 60 to 69 age range. And then the other age ranges fall into place. As we look at the location of respondents, we see the location in terms of Ontario, BC, and Alberta are the places, the provinces where we had the most respondents. Not shown in this slide is gender. It's about a 60 to 40 male to female split. And there was a good mix of people from rural locations through to urban centers. Other things, in terms of the respondents, 58% were evangelical Protestants, 25% Catholics, 15% mainline Protestants, and we see 2% Orthodox. Not shown in the slide is the age of congregations, but about 3/4 have existed for 30 plus years. So that gives you a sense of how long they've been a church. I also have shown here the percentage of pastoral roles who took the survey. So 32% senior pastors completed the survey, followed by board members. They could be a board of elders, parish councils at 14%. Now, in terms of church attendance, we see the average worship attendance on the left side, left table there. And we can see that those who took the survey, most are between 349 to under 50. And in respect to church attendance, we asked in the last 3 years, has your church increased, remained the same, or decreased? And we see over half at 55% increase in attendance. Now we get a good sense of the respondents who took the survey. Now I would like to look at three key findings around pastoral perceptions of spiritual openness of people in the communities that they serve. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the increasing priority of evangelism in their congregations. And the third key finding is clarity regarding the objectives of sharing faith with others. And what I would like to particularly want to do, and I want to see, is I want to look at if there are any significant findings or associations around age, gender, region of country, the length of a congregation has existed, and the population size. So I'll use those demographic information to see if there are any associations with the variables from the key findings 1, 2, and 3. So let's get started and let's look at the first finding. One of the key findings that I think this group might be interested in, and it relates to spiritual openness or spiritual curiosity. Now, perception matters insofar as they shape how we behave in turn. So, for example, if we don't think people are spiritually curious, that will impact how we approach evangelization. Now, we see that 71% agree or strongly agree with increased spiritual curiosity. And I think that's positive and that's good news. But let's look more closely at the 52% of pastoral leaders that agreed with this increase of spiritual curiosity in the red square. Now, of that 52%, of that 52% of pastoral leaders that agree with increased spirituality or spiritual curiosity, Alberta has seen the most significant increase in spiritual curiosity compared to other provinces and territories. So here we notice a regional factor or a regional variation here. I find that interesting because I live in Alberta, and I find that interesting because when I think about the most recent 2021 census, which states that about 53% of people in Canada are Christians. And so when we look at this, 48% are Christians compared in Alberta, compared, say, to people who live in Newfoundland and Alberta at 82%. So when we see all Christians in Canada, which is 53%, we see Newfoundland and Labrador 82%, but Alberta was 48%. I just find that that's interesting, significant variation in terms of regional factors here. Now, with the same question, let's look at the 19% that strongly agreed in the red square with increased spiritual curiosity and see if there is anything significant that we can find. And when we look at age range, of the 19% in the red square that strongly agreed with increased spiritual curiosity, 39% of 18 to 29-year-olds, 30% of 30 to 39-year-olds, and 26% of 40 to 49-year-old of pastoral leaders show significant increase in spiritual curiosity. And we see here a younger age demographic. So Gen Z and millennial pastoral leaders in particular are seeing greater increases in spiritual curiosity in their communities. And that's interesting to me as well. And I wonder why. And perhaps in our conversation, it's Q&A time, we can kind of think or talk a little bit about that if you wish. But I just find that to be quite interesting. Now let's look at another key finding. Lapsed Christians or non-Christians entering a church building. Interesting that still, over half, 56%, agreed and strongly agreed entering a church building. But that's less than the spiritual curiosity more broadly from the last slide that I showed at 71%. So they're more spiritually curious, but slightly less in entering a church building from the perspective of these pastoral leaders. And I think for church planters, some of us, some of you use traditional church buildings, and others intentionally avoid using church buildings because the symbolism of traditional church may evoke negative connotations, and instead may use schools or warehouse spaces. So that may be a factor in interpreting this particular piece of data. So again, just being careful here and knowing context, I think, is important. Now, another key finding, openness to Christian gospel message. We see pastoral leaders believe they are seeing increased openness towards the gospel message at 59%. All right, let's maybe switch gears here and look at the second key finding of congregational leaders' perceptions about the priority of evangelism in their various congregational contexts. So we see here 58% combination of increase slightly and increase significantly. So let's look at gender and how that breaks down in terms of increase significantly responses. So the red box there, the 22%. Now, of that 22% of pastoral leaders who have said that evangelism has significantly increased in priority, 27% of female pastoral leaders and only 19% of male pastors said that evangelism has increased significantly in their congregations. And so the point here is that there's a significant difference between female and male pastoral leaders' responses. And female pastoral leaders see more of a significant increase than their male counterparts. And I think part of the reason behind these numbers has to do perhaps with church tradition, theological variations, and perhaps church polity. Now, in this slide, I want to look at that 22% that increased significantly, who saw significant increases in their congregations prioritizing evangelism. So that red square. So those pastoral leaders between the ages of 40 to 49 saw significantly less increases at only 15%. And all the other age ranges came in as expected. So let's look at the age range and the increased slightly. So let's look at that 36% in the next slide that I'll show here. And what we see in this slide of the increase slightly responses in the red box, of that 36%, there were more 50 to 59-year-olds pastoral leaders who responded with a slight increase at 42%, and a significant decrease of responses from the 70 to 79-year-old age range at 21%. So that was significant between the age ranges there on this particular survey question. Now, these are the top 5 methods of evangelization encouraged in congregations. So what we basically did, folks, is that the leaders were given a list of 10 options and asked to identify up to 3. So this figure captures the 5 most cited method here. Now, this list does not indicate if these methods are quote unquote effective, but at least it reveals the methods congregations are drawing upon. So 56% inviting to events, 55% show faith through action, 45% inviting to courses, 34% practicing hospitality, and 32% verbally sharing the gospel. Now, the last thing I want to cover is, what is the goal of evangelism? And here we ask leaders to identify the central goal of evangelism. And we gave them a list of almost 10 items, asking them to identify one, just one from the list. In contrast, in 2021 survey, where there was a whole lot more variation, here we see a clear consensus on the central aim of evangelization. So 65% say person wants to know and follow Jesus as Savior and Lord, versus 28% on that far left there on the slide in 2021, which actually was the leading response at that point in 2021. So there was one significant finding around one of the goals of evangelism, and it's around gender, and it's that middle circle there, that 10% who responded that persons see or experience God's love through the actions of others. Now, 14% of female pastoral leaders say that people experience God's love through the action of others, and 7% of male pastoral leaders say that people experience God's love through the actions of others. And there's a significant finding there in terms of gender. Now, when you look at this table, so I'm moving away from the survey itself, we see in general here the decline of Christianity and the increase in other religions. Now, this slide is a comparison from the National Household Survey in 2011 and the 2021 census. So in 2021, as I mentioned earlier, 53% of the total population in Canada were Christians, and 4.9% were Muslim, but almost more than a third are not religious at all. So on the slide where it says no religion, those are the religious nuns. The nuns they checked off on the census of no religion is 35%. And with the rest stating that they adhere to Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, the Jewish faith, and other Christian denominations. So lots here in respect to church planting and evangelism, where Canada is not a very religious country in general. All right. Canadians adhere to a wide variety of beliefs and faiths, but with the majority following Christianity, followed by those who do not believe in any deity or religion at all, the religious nuns. So when with the information or with the data and what I presented from the national survey and looking at the 2021 census, there are, I think, and we can ask, what are the implications for church planting? And what trends do you see here? Just to, in summary, the data from the pastoral leaders see, again, increases in spiritual openness, increase in priority in evangelism, and greater clarity around evangelism. Now, just some reflections, and this could, we can have some conversations around in our Q&A time. So as you reflect on the data presented today, what stands out to you in the data in respect to church planting? So that's the first reflection. The second is, what gives you hope? And then what gives you cause for pause? So as you kind of think through some of the information that I presented today, there was a lot of information, so hopefully you'll be able to absorb it. But what stands out for you in the data, and what gives you hope? What gives you cause for pause? Just some other things for more resources. If you want, I guess I can give a little bit of advertising here. I hope that's okay. For more resources, we have from the Flourishing Congregations Institute, and that's our website. You can subscribe to our Flourishing Forward. And what we do with that is that there's a blog that goes out twice a month of Canadian research, and that's geared towards practitioners. Attend our Flourishing Forward webinars. We've finished them, but they are recorded, and you can watch previous ones. And on our website, we utilize there's various church training resources as well. I'll stop there and over to you, Todd and Nate.